Hello, everyone. My book is The Dark Game: True Spy Stories by Paul B. Janichenko. This was a nonfiction, and it dealt a lot with the history of espionage in the United States and the wars we've all fought. And in here, it says you find out the truth about how George Washington outspied the British, the only mysterious woman spy who was identified by a coded number and never named during the Revolutionary War. Benedict Arnold, a spy and traitor. Rebel Rose Greenhow, who was imprisoned as a Confederate spy during the Civil War. A blast registers 5.0 on the Richter scale, orchestrated by two German saboteurs to destroy the shipping of munitions during World War One. Mata Hari, who faced a firing squad charged with being a double agent. The daring escape by foot over the Pyrenees Mountains by Virginia Hall, who also had a wooden leg. Juan Pujol, aka Garbo, who was a self made spy, and Americans Aldrich Ames and Robert Hansen. They were two double agents who were caught red-handed in the last 20 years, and it is estimated that the damage they did to our infrastructure and the intelligence community is in the hundreds of millions, if not billions, of dollars. And I've always been really interested with espionage. It's one of the main genres I read in fiction, and I also am very interested in it in nonfiction. It's one of the few nonfiction genres that I really do love to read. So this really appealed to me just from reading the cover, let alone what was inside it. And I really learned a lot. And this was, I mean, really barely skimmed the surface. For some of these subjects, it just kind of summed it up and gave you the basic information. But even then, I mean, there's a wealth of knowledge in this book, and it's only let's see here. Yeah, it's not even 250 pages. Covers a wealth of subjects, and it was something I'd really recommend for a history course. Like I think it's good to read just if you want to assign a nonfiction book in a class, but I think it really has a lot to offer if you were to teach it in a type of history course or like a political science course, because it is you can really get tons and tons of hours of discussion just from this one book, just because it covers so many different topics. It covers Benedict Arnold, who I really learned in here. I'd always thought, okay, he was a spy, he was a bad guy. Really, I mean, he was an impressive officer, and he did a lot for us during the war. But however, I mean, he got disgruntled, he got passed over for promotions, and eventually he figured, hey, the enemy might, appreciate me more for what I have to offer than my own people do. So that's, what he ended up doing. And now he's remembered as a spy and traitor and everything. I mean, really, if you look at it, one could argue that he kind of got a raw deal, and that's something I never would have thought of. I never thought that would ever be possible. I see a traitor, I see a traitor. That's that. But this really went into something more than that, which I really found interesting. And one thing I found interesting here is during World War One, we had a pier in New York where we were putting a bunch of munitions like artillery shells, explosives, bombs, and we're going to send it overseas. Now the Germans, I never knew they even developed a really expensive spy network till World War II, but they actually had a spy ring in New York that was operating. And what they use is they look like cigars, but they were actually very high explosives. And when you pinch them down, there was an acid bit in the middle, and on each end were explosives. The acid would eat through and eventually reach the explosives, so it made it like a timed bomb. What they did is they got boxes of these things, and they were going to send them over with the munitions. They would send it to the troops. And what they did before they did it is they crunched a few of these so the acid would start eating away. So only a few of the bombs were active, but there were boxes of these things. So once one went off, it started a chain reaction. And eventually it just completely blew the pier just to smithereens. I mean, it looked like a war zone in these pictures, which I'd show, but it'd be real grainy. It wouldn't really show real well. But I'm going to read a part here that shows you just how huge this explosion was. Remarkably, when the fires were extinguished and people were accounted for, there were but 7 fatalities in the explosions and inferno. This relatively low number of deaths is remarkable considering that almost 500 people were aboard the ships, tied up at the piers and anchored nearby. Scientists believe the blast was about a 5.0 on the Richter scale. In comparison, the collapse of the World Trade Center North Tower on September 11, 2001, registered a 2.3 according to a seismic observatory in New Jersey. So you imagine when World Trade Center North Tower fell. I mean, we all saw that on the news. Still remember it to this day how huge that thing was. That was only a 2.3. This was over double that on this pier, this explosion. I mean, they felt this states away, and just with a few little bombs that would look like cigars, and that just really, really blows my mind. And especially how, I mean, they pulled it off too. You know, you hear about these plots that never eventually get off the ground, but this thing, I mean, it sent us back months and months and months in trying to get these supplies over there. And if they had more operations like that going, I mean, that could have, you know, this is the kind of stuff that turns the tide of wars. And if they had more of that stuff that happened to us, you know, they could have ended up with a victory. So it was really just interesting to learn that kind of stuff. That's stuff I've never, found out about in a history class. And there's another one in here. This woman, I never realized, I guess, that there were that many female spies in history. However, this one woman here, Virginia Hall, she had a wooden leg. This was during World War II when she was active. She had a wooden leg due to a hunting incident. She ended up getting shot in the foot, and it caused gangrene. She had to have it amputated, and she wanted to contribute to the war effort. She didn't just want to sit around, watch it all happen. She really wanted to do something. She wanted to make a change. So she joined up the SOE, which was the Special Operations Executive. It was basically the front runner that became the Central Intelligence Agency. And what she did was she collected intelligence and overseas. She was in Germany. She helped set up dozens and dozens of German agents. She helped set up resistance fighters. She operated all this, just her. And one thing that was very impressive was because she became the most hunted spy by the Germans. I mean, they were seriously going out of their way to try to locate her. She was causing so much problems. And when you think of this kind of stuff back then, I don't want to sound sexist, but you think of men pulling this stuff off. I mean, you do. And this woman, she caused more problems than any other man, operating there. And finally, when she realized she was not safe anymore, when she needed to get further away from the front line, she was going to head to Spain. However, in order to do that, she had to cross the Pyrenees Mountains in France. 2 months trekking these mountains, very, very difficult terrain, dead of winter. She left in November. She got there in January eventually. She reached Spain in January. She had crossed all this with a wooden leg. I mean, a lot of people can't pull that off with 2 good legs. She was just operating with a wooden one. It didn't stop her, though. She kept going and kept going. Germans never caught her. She got home, and the president, he wanted to give her, medal after medal for her accomplishments. She didn't want anything to do with it. She's like, it's not smart to draw that much attention to me. Just leave it alone. She's very, very, very humble. She just thought she was doing her duty. She didn't think she needed to be really rewarded for it. She just did what she thought was right. And she ended up living out the rest of her days on a farm, just living a simple life. She got married to a former OSS agent, and they just lived out the rest of her life. And also, I'm sorry, the OSS was the front runner for the CIA. I made a mistake there. The SOE, Special Operations Executive, that was a front runner that became the British Intelligence Agency, which was MI6 nowadays. And back to this, and also you have the spies, the Aldrich Ames and Robert Hansen, people I never, I heard of them, but I never realized they did cause this much damage and this much, and it has set us back so far in the intelligence community. This book just really, I mean, it was a page turner for me. In nonfiction, that's really rare for me to find. But like I said, this book, I'd teach it if I were in a political science class. If you're trying to teach like a nonfiction that can really speak to someone, or a history course. It all really speaks well in here, and I'd highly recommend it. As far as an audience goes, I would say at least you'd have to be 10th grade and up. It's a bit mature just in not language or anything, but just the historical significance and everything. I think you have to be a bit more mature audience for them to really understand it and grasp it. But this book was, I highly recommend it to anyone who's interested in history, warfare history, espionage. Really, I mean, you're gonna find it a very good read, and like I said, there's a wealth of knowledge in it, and it can touch touch on a lot of subjects, and you want to learn more about these certain subjects. Like I'm looking up a bunch of stuff I found in here that I want to expand on. So it's a great starting point for something like that. That's another thing you could use it is say, okay, well, I want you to read these books, but first get this and get some of the basic information. You're going to want to read these books after that. It'd be a good tool for that. So that is all I have. Thank you very much. If there are any questions, post them to this, and I'll try to get back to them. Thank you.